So the narrator was a small boy, and he, for the first time, somebody told him that he is a poet, and that man even said, "You are as good as mine." मतलब तुम मेरे तरह ही अच्छे पोएट। और वो शायद सच भी बोलता होगा, because a boy is a poet. Each boy is a poet. Each girl is a poet. Each child is a poet. That's why when B. Wordsworth left, narrator developed a love. A kind of camaraderie, a kind of friendship, a kind of cosmic connection, a kind of poetic possibilities between one and the other. So after a week, the man came, when the narrator came from school, he met him at the corner of Newgate Street. So वो जो आदमी था, जो गुरु पाम ट्री के में आके मधुमक्खियों को देख रहा था, so narrator made him once more. So it seems that the boy and poet, they have developed a kind of spark that is going to lit a very big fire. He said, "I have been waiting for you for a long time." So it seems that not only the boy was waiting for the poet, even the poet was waiting for the boy. Why? It seems that the poet can find a poet in the boy. So शायद इस समाज में कोई भी इतना समझदार ना हो जो इस पोएट के पोएट्री को समझ पाए, except this boy. So the poet could find a possibility, poetic possibility in the boy. He could see the seed germinating of poetry in him. He could see the inception of creativity in him. I said, "You sell any poetry?" It's, but the poet is coming from a poor background where the materialism overpowers his creativity. So the first thing that we all think is about dhanda, is about earning, is about roji roti, is about bank balance, it is about portfolio income, is about passive income, is about financial freedom. So coming from this kind of mindset, the boy has instinctive question कि क्या कुछ बिका, poetry बिके? He shook his head, मतलब नहीं. He said, "In my yard, I have a best mango tree in the port of Spain. And now, according to some people, this person, this boy, is not in whole, but some part is a biography of V.S. Naipaul himself. Not the whole, but a sub part, fragments of it. In my yard, I have the best mango tree in the port of Spain, and now the mangoes are ripe and red and very sweet and juicy. I have waited here for you to tell you this and to invite you to come and eat mangoes." So narrator, अब दोस्ती हुआ है तो दोस्ती में गिफ्ट भी चाहिए, लेकिन पोएट के पास गिफ्ट देने के लिए है ही क्या? सो ही सेइंग कि मेरे घर में, मेरे आंगन में बहुत मीठा मीठा मैंगो होता है. If you want, you can come and eat it. He lived in Alberto Street. Alberto Street is also a symbol that we'll realize at the end is a symbol of something that is bound to change. Or Alberto Street is a symbol of inevitability. It's a symbol of becoming victim to change. So वो आदमी, पोएट, अल्बर्टो स्ट्रीट में रहता था. एक रूम का घर था, झोपड़ी ऐसा, ओके, और उसका एक छोटा सा आंगन था. There was a big mango tree and there was a coconut tree and a plum tree, perfect setting for a poet. Poet wants to live in the lap of nature, so this is the lap of nature. That looked wild, मतलब जंगल wild था. Okay, poet loves, untrimmed, unpruned, a thing that is not influenced by society, a thing that is not suppressed by conventions. So poet is a symbol of that thing. The place looked wild, मतलब जंगल जो था, garden जो था wild था, as though it wasn't in the city at all. मतलब इसको देख के लगता था ये शहर नहीं, शहर के बीच में कोई जंगल है. You could not see all the big concrete houses in the street. और यहाँ से बैठ के लगता था हम लोग कोई मैंने पार्क स्ट्रीट में रह के कोई गांव में आ गया ऐसा कुछ. So you could not see all those concrete houses, and it used to look as if it's a village. He was right. The mangoes were sweet. वो बोला था ना मेरे मैंगो सबसे अच्छे हैं. Okay, स्पेन में तो ये सच में सबसे अच्छा मैंगो था. I ate about 6 mangoes. And the yellow mango just ruined on my arms to my elbow and down my mouth to my chin, and my shirt was strained. Narrator, बच्चा ही था यहाँ मैंगो वो खाया कपड़ा पूरा गंदा हो गया. When my mother said when I got home where you were, तो मम्मी भी वैसे ही बोल रही सूटा फूटा इंग्लिश. तुम कहाँ गए थे? You think you're a man now? You can go to all places. Go and cut a whip for me. मम्मी बोली कि चलो छड़ी लेके आओ हमको तुमको मारते हैं. तो मम्मी बच्चे को बहुत मारी बहुत मारी बहुत मारी. So the narrator ran out of the house swearing that he would never come. बच्चे बोलते ना कभी नहीं आएंगे फिर 5 मिनट बाद आ जाते. तो ये छोटा वाला इट्स अ चाइल्ड एक्सप्रेशंस ऑफ रिवोल्ट. ये बच्चा घर छोड़ के भागने लगा बोला हम कभी नहीं आएंगे. So he went to again be Wordsworth house. I was so angry my nose was bleeding. मम्मी इतना मारी थी नाक से खून निकल. Be Wordsworth said stop crying. We'll go for a walk. So the poet has a poetic way of giving solace. The poet has a poetic way of giving companionship. I stopped crying but I was breathing. ऐसे ऐसे कर रहा था नरेटर लेकिन वो रोना बंद कर दिया. We went for a walk. ये सब वो जगह है which is influenced by British colonial rule. So they went to St. Clair Avenue, okay, to the savanna grasses, and we went to race course. The British लोग जहाँ आते race course. In Kolkata we have a race course. So B. Wordsworth said, now let us lie on the grass. So बहुत सारे grasses थे, and they were lying on the grass like there's a scene in Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Okay, Katrina Kaif and Hrithik Roshan were lying on the ground and looking at the star. I said to you to think how far the stars for us. So narrator is saying, I want the boy to think. मतलब बी वर्ड्सवर्थ बोल रहा बच्चे को देखो और सोचो तो स्टार हमसे कितना दूर है. ये सब पागलपन है. पागलपन ही पोइट्री है. वो तो जर्नल एंट्री हो जाता. I did as he told me. I saw what he meant. He did as he told me and I saw what he meant. तो नरेटर समझ गया कि ये कोई पोइटिक चीज बोले. इज नॉट आस्किंग अबाउट द साइंटिफिक distance or the depth or the height or measurement. I felt like nothing, and at the same time, I had never felt so big and great in my life. Narrator is saying when he looked at the star with this kind of mindset, he felt very big. When you become a part of the cosmos, you feel infinity in you. You feel Aham Brahmasmi, the God is within me. You feel the infinity within. You feel the divinity within. The narrator forgot all anger and all my tears are blown away. So the Dukh Gam Bhul Ke, the poet and the boy narrator got connected with the cosmic nature. But when you get connected with the cosmic nature, you become divine, you become infinite, you become anant, you become endless. But in the process of becoming endless, in the process of becoming infinite, one has to dissolve himself. One has to let go of his identity. The drop of the water has to let go its identity to become the ocean. When I said I was better, he began telling me the names of the stars, okay, and so many other things like Orion the Hunter, though I did not know why. I can spot Orion even today, but I've forgotten the rest. So narrator told him, ये सारे stars को ये बोलते, ये सारे stars को ये बोलते. So शायद he was teaching him to dream. He was teaching him to shine. शायद he was teaching him to be very big in life. So अब इतने में अब if we lie in the grass, okay, that too in the race course area, police तो आई गई. Then a light was flashed in my face. अंधेरा हो रहा था. एक आदमी आके लाइट चेहरे पे दिखाया. पुलिसमैन था. ये दोनों ने ग्रास से उठा. The policeman said, "What are you doing here?" Now, B. Wordsworth is a mystic. He's a poet. He has a sense of spiritual alignment with God. So he said, I have been asking the same question for 40 years. So it might seem as if he's joking with the police, which might appear as a joke. But if you understand the spiritual sense to it, who are we and what are you doing is the ultimate spiritual question. It's the ultimate existential question. So B Wordsworth, पुलिस ने पूछा कि तुम यहाँ सो के कर क्या रहे हो? बी वर्ड्सवर्थ बोल रहा हम भी तो अपने आप से यही पूछ रहे हैं कि आखिर हम दुनिया में कर क्या है, मेरा मकसद क्या है, मेरा गोल क्या है, मुझको बता, मेरा डर है कहाँ मोला. So B Wordsworth said it at a wrong time to a wrong person, but the statement holds true. I mean, it is still one of the crux of all spiritual philosophies. So they became friends. Now एक छोटा सा बच्चा और ये 50 साल का बुड्ढे में क्यों दोस्ती हो सकता है. ये तो हमारे अकल की फतूर है. This is our, the barrier in the thought that we have been brought up with this belief that a friendship between 5 and 50 is not possible. एक एज के लोग में फ्रेंडशिप हो सकता है. दोस्ती होने के लिए दोस्ताना चाहिए, उम्र नहीं. For good friends, we need to be in the same zone. Age, gender, caste, nationality doesn't matter. So they become friends. B Wordsworth and I. B Wordsworth 50 साल का, ये school boy. He told me, the poet told narrator, you must never tell anybody about me, about the mango tree and coconut tree. You must keep that a secret. If you tell anybody, I will know because I'm a poet. Now, narrator is a small boy. And when you are a kid, you tend to believe people around you. You don't suspect and doubt them. बचपन में मम्मी ने कहा था सेंटा क्लॉज आया था, बच्चों ने मान लिया था. बचपन में मम्मी ने कहा था खा लो नहीं तो खिड़की से भूत आएंगे, बच्चे ने मान लिया था. ओके, मम्मी ने कहा था सो जाओ नहीं तो भूतवा आएगा, बच्चे ने मान लिया था. So here is a narrator who is told that you should not tell anything to anybody, because if you tell, I will know I'm a poet. Now there's another side to it. Who is a poet? Of course, not making it very philosophical. The poet is one who can understand emotions, one who understands, one who can see truth, one who knows the inner engineering of a human being. So the poet is saying, अगर तुम किसी को बताओगे ना तो मैं समझ जाऊंगा. At a surface level, it sounds as if he is trying to manipulate the world. But if you see through the lens of mysticism, you will realize a mystic can know a lot of things. Mysticism in shorter form is a thing that is difficult to define right now, but still, mysticism, let us call it spirituality. Spiritual sense में योगिक लोगों को पता होता है कि कौन क्या बोल रहा है, सच झूठ. Even long before this truth test was invented. I gave him my word and I kept it. The last 3 sentences is very important. Because many people make promise, but very few people keep it. And this boy keeping the promise proves that the boy trusted the man. The man was just not a man. The man was a source of inspiration, a source of connecting him to possibilities of life, connecting him with the poetic adventures of life, connecting him to his own sensibility that he was losing because of the cutthroat materialistic competition that was in his neighborhood Newell Street. I like this little room. Writer is saying उसका छोटू सा घर मुझे अच्छा लगता था. It had no furniture. Okay. But it looked cleaner and healthier. But it looked lonely. वहाँ कोई नहीं रहता था. छोटा सा घर था. Okay. One day I asked him, Mr. Wordsworth, why do you keep all the bush in the yard? Does it make the place damp? He says, आप ये इतना जंगल झाड़ लगा के क्यों रखते हैं? इसको काट फाट के थोड़ा अच्छा कर दीजिए तो डैम्प हो जाएगा. He said, listen, I will tell you a story. So poet लोग तो poetic तरीके से ही सब बोलते हैं. तो poet अपना love story भी एक poetic अंदाज में बोलता है. उल्टे ही चाल चलते हैं, इश्क वाले आंखों को बंद करते हैं दीदार के लिए. So here is a person telling about his own story in a story form. So he's saying once upon a time, a boy and a girl met each other, they fell in love, they loved each other, they got married, they were happy poets. He loved words, she loved grass, flowers and trees. They lived happily in a single room. Then one day, यहाँ तक कितना पोइटिक है, लवर्स लोग हैं साथ में रह रहे, they got married, बस बस comes the challenge of money, the challenge of resources. रोटी कपड़ा मकान, रोटी कपड़ा मकान जीने के लिए जरूरी है, लोग कहते थोड़ी ना कहते पोइट्री जीने के लिए जरूरी है. ओके, ही लव्ड ग्रास, मैंने उसकी जो कहानी का जो कैरेक्टर है, उसकी जो बिलेविड थी, उसे नेचर पसंद था, इसे वर्ड्स पसंद थे. So they fell in love, got married, they lived happily in a single room. Then one day, the girl poet said to the poet, we are having another poet, she's pregnant. But this poet was not born because the girl died and the young poet died within her. So give me just 1 minute to make it uh, multidimensional. One, of course, it's not mentioned here, but the girl died because poet के पास तो कोई अर्निंग नहीं था, उसकी घर वाली के पास भी कोई अर्निंग नहीं था. तो they, the unborn child died because of malnutrition. I mean, this is the most convincing argument. कि जब घर में पोएट कौन ही खरीदे, ओके, न्यूगल स्ट्रीट में पोएट्री कहाँ ही बिके, तो कुछ अर्निंग नहीं था. So during the pregnancy, you have to eat for 2 persons, one for yourself and one for the foetus. So the girl had a miscarriage, and along with the girl, the unborn child or the about to be born child, the foetus will be mar gaya. So there is a symbolic significance here that this death of this coming poet is a death of poetry. एक बार फिर से बोल रहे, ये जो बच्चा पोएट और उसकी बिलावेट का जो बच्चा होने वाला था वो मर गया, ये एक सिंबल है कि ऐसे समाज में पोएट पनपने से पहले ही मर जाएंगे. And you will realize even the narrator in the story, even before, there is a germination of poetry in him. At the end of the story, he will be told not to become a poet, not to follow poetic possibility, not to follow his instinct, not to follow his heart, not to wear the heart on his sleeve. So अभी germination हो रहा था, अभी inception हो रहा था, इससे पहले ही he is meant to believe otherwise. So this death of the poet in the womb of the mother is a symbolic significance of the death of poetry in the materialistic womb of society. And the girl husband was very sad. उसकी wife मर गई, उसके होने वाले बच्चे मर गए, तो उदास था. He said you would never touch a thing in the girl's garden and the garden remained same. तो garden वही था सामने था. तो ये last line बता रहा है. He was not telling a story of once upon a time. He was talking about his own life, and he is the poet, and his wife is that girl, and his own son died in the womb of his wife. Now, the garden is not touched because poets have their own poetic ways of remembering things. वो लोग शायद Instagram, I'm not talking Instagram, I'm saying they have different ways of making things memorable. Apart from Instagram, वो कुत्ता का कान लगाने वाला, ये कुत्ते का जीभ लगाने वाला, अलग अलग दुनिया में अलग अलग लोगों को सेंसिबिलिटी होती है. सो ये मेमोरी इंस्टा में नहीं रखता था, ये स्नैपचैट में. He just kept the garden of the girl because the girl loved the garden, flowers and everything, without doing anything. And this untouched garden was a memory of his beloved wife who is dead. It is also a memory of nature. It is also a memory of adventure. It is also a memory of poetic possibilities. It is also a symbol. कुछ चीजें कभी नहीं मिटाई जा सकती. लड़की मर गई, होने वाला बच्चा मर गया, लेकिन उसकी यादें, उसकी पोएटिक सेंसिबिलिटी को कौन मिटा सकता है. उसी के याद में ये जंगल अभी भी, मैंने गार्डन जंगल जैसा रखा गया. I looked at B. Wordsworth and he told me his lovely story. And he seems to grow older while he was telling. क्यों? Because when you talk about pain, when you talk about sorrow, when you talk about, failure, when you talk about rejection, then suddenly you feel a bit older. The narrator is here talking about not becoming older in age, becoming older psychologically, becoming older फिजियोलॉजिकली, और मतलब वक्त के हिसाब से नहीं, फीलिंग के हिसाब से वो बूढ़ा हो चुका है। अब कुछ लोग देखिएगा, those who are born in a very poverty stricken place, तो वो कम उम्र में ही बड़े बूढ़े बूढ़े से लगने लगते हैं। जिंदगी के भाग दौड़ में अजीब सा उनके चेहरे का ग्लो छीन लेता है। तो ये अचानक कहानी बोलते 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 ही वॉज साइकोलॉजिकली फिजियोलॉजिकली लुकिंग अजीब सा बूढ़ा लगने लगा। ये बुढ़ापा उम्र से नहीं, दुख से आती है। We went for long walks together, so narrator became the friend of the poet, and they went to botanical garden. मतलब ये अंग्रेज लोग जहाँ गए तो botanical garden type कुछ छोड़े। Rock garden, we climbed Chancellor Hill. These are all the words which, as I told in the beginning of my first video, that Newgate Street and this place itself is a character. So these places are all the post-colonial places. So they went to the port of Spain, watched the lights, okay, in the harbor. He did everything as though he were doing it for the first time in his life. This is very, very significant. I wish I had the time to do justice to it. He was doing everything as if it was spiritual thing. I remember Buddhist monk saying that the day you bath yourself as if you are bathing Buddha, you feel the Buddhahood in you. Or the day you start drinking coffee with the same kind of sanctity as you are making your religious mandir place, that day you become spiritual. Once more, let me repeat it. Let me say it in Indian concept. The sense we have, the sense of spiritual surrender we have, bhakti we have, when we prepare the idol of Krishna in Janmashtami, if we can have the same kind of sacredness to everything in life, life would become a puja. Life would become sacred. Life would become a pilgrimage. Some people pray in life and some people make their life a prayer. Some people pray in life and some people make their life a prayer. Here is a man who did everything as if he was doing it for the first time. You know, he had the curiosity, the adventure. जैसे बच्चे पहले बार रेन में जाते हैं, पहला बार गार्डन में जाते हैं, इसके आंखों ने अभी तक वो चमक खोया नहीं था जो बच्चे को आंखों में होता है। He had the sense of spirituality that spiritual people have, the mystics have, the true mystics have, not the con man, but the God mans. He did everything as though he were doing it some church, right? What a beautiful line. वो ऐसे सब कामों को करता था जैसे वो चर्च में धार्मिक लोग कुछ धर्म का रिचुअल्स करते हैं। जैसे चर्च में भोग होता है, टू एक्सप्लेन इन इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट, चर्च में पल्पिट में जाके बाइबल पढ़ना पड़ता है, ओके, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ। तो ये हर काम ऐसे करता था जैसे जिंदगी एक चर्च हो और हर जगह क्राइस्ट का एक सिंबल, इसको हर चीज में डिविनिटी दिखता था। That's why I told you it's a cosmic chapter, a chapter in which there is a link between everything and everything is linked with us. That's why I told you Aham Brahmasmi, there's a divine within. तो ये सब कुछ को बहुत ऐसे करता था जैसे सब कुछ बहुत स्पिरिचुअल। सही है, किसी ने पूछा गॉड कहाँ है, जवाब मिला कहाँ नहीं है। किसी ने पूछा गॉड कहाँ है, जवाब मिला कहाँ नहीं है। तो अगर हर जगह ही है, why shouldn't life itself be a prayer? This man did everything as if he was doing the church rituals, right? Many rituals. He would say to me now, how about having some ice cream? लेकिन सिर्फ spiritual से तो होगा नहीं, ice cream भी खाने होगा। खैर ice cream खाना भी spiritual है। I mean, if you can bring that sense of spiritual awareness to it, ice cream खाना भी spiritual होगा। And now when I said yes, he grew very serious. अब वो सोच रहा है कि हाँ तो बोल दिया, आप आइसक्रीम के लिए तो पैसे चाहिए, विच कैब सेल बी पैट्रोनाइज, इसे हम लोग किस मतलब दुकान में जाके पैट्रोनाइज करें, किसी को हेल्प करें। एज इट वाज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, तो हर चीज को उसको ना संजीदगी से सोचता था एज इफ इट वाज डिवाइन। As if it were a very important thing. He would think for some time and then finally said, I think I will go and negotiate the price with the shopkeeper. इसके पास इतना पैसा कम था। इसको आइसक्रीम भी दर मुलाई करके लेना पड़ेगा मम्मी लोगों के तरफ. The world became exciting place. Why? Did he get money? Did the narrator get money? Did he get Nobel Prize? Did he get Oscar? No. He got himself. मुझको ही मुझसे मिला देंगे रब. So he made himself for the first time. He started exploring the inner being. ये अंतर यात्री हो गया. He started traveling within. So life became exciting. Ice cream से exciting नहीं हुआ भाई साहब. No. Actually, he got a friend. No, not talking about the poet. The friend within. He started experiencing the possibilities of life, love in all forms of life, the cosmic sense of being a part of nature. One day when I was in ISC, he said to me, I have a great secret I'm going to tell you. Now, narrator again is a boy coming up from the background of money, material, poverty. तो इसके लिए secret मतलब कोई material चीज होगा. So the poet is saying, the 50-year-old man is saying to the boy, हमको कुछ secret बोलना है तुमसे. He expected something, money related, something other than, sensory, मतलब other than poetry or other than nature. बच्चा अभी भी तो उस घर से आ रहा है ना जहाँ सब कुछ का डिसीजन मनी से होता है. The boy said, is that a secret? At the moment, yes. I looked at him and he looked at me. He said, it is just between you and me. Remember, I'm writing a poem. Oh, I was disappointed. He expected material things. He expected human being. He expected something else. But this is a different sort of poem. It's not the poem he was selling. This is the poem that he's writing for self-satisfaction. This is the greatest poem in the world. He's saying कि आम poem नहीं है. अच्छा, greatest poem कैसे होगा? Who will decide its greatest poem? Poets do not believe for the validation of others. They are poets. They are not politicians. They don't want vote. They are poets. They are not politicians. So the greatest poet वो खुद ही बोल रहा है. तो ये arrogance है. नहीं, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि भी तो arrogance है. This, I am the greatest poet in the world, comes from a sense of spirituality. When you are saying I am God, is it an insult to God? According to some people, it might appear God, but according to some, it is ultimate spirituality. So here, when he's saying greatest, he means it with sincerity, with humility. I whistled, narrator started whistling. He said, I have been working on it for more than 5 years now. I will finish it in 25 years from now if I keep writing at the present stage. So he's saying कि अभी हम 25 साल लगेगा हमको, 22 years लगेगा, sorry, to make this poem complete. You do write a lot. He's saying तुम बहुत poetry लिखते हो. He's saying no. I just write one line a month. I make sure it is good line. He's saying कि मैं बहुत distill करके पूरे emotions को छोटा करता हूँ, उसको छोटा करके pressy writing जैसा छोटा करते I make it into a one line. I asked, what was the last good line? He says, तुम्हारा आखिरी line क्या था? So the writer said, मेरा आखिरी line the past is deep. Now see, this is written in italics. Here, there is a kind of, multiple interpretations possible here. One, here he's talking about his own past life. He's talking about the post-colonial past, that is the Britishers ruling on these places. He's talking about that if your past is really, manipulated, it will have deeper effect. मतलब इसका past बहुत ही dangerous होगा. Future will have some influence and present will, of course. So in other words, past can never be, the roots can never be. If you want to have a very good shoot, you need to have a very good root, right? So here the past in that sense, the past of his life, the past of his culture, the past of the British rule, and past in so many sense. And deep in the sense that it is bound to be influential. No matter we agree or disagree, the past is going to influence all of us. A kind of, karma. That's why I keep saying it's a spiritual, there's a spiritual sense to it. I said, it's a beautiful line. Narrator could probably sense it much bigger meaning than I could. Because he's a boy, I'm a teacher. A boy is more sensible than me. So, बच्चा बोल रहे तो अच्छा लाइन है. B. Wordsworth said, I hope to distill the experience of the whole month in single line of poetry. पूरा एक मंथ एक्सपीरियंस को वो छोटा करके डिस्टिल करके फिल्टर करते करते, इंस्टाग्राम वाला नहीं, नॉर्मल वाला, लाइफ वाला, तो फिल्टर करते 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 एक लाइन होता है एक मंथ में. In 22 years, I will have written a poem that will be sung to all humanity. Says, I will write such a great poem कि पूरा दुनिया सुनेगा. I was filled with wonder. ये बच्चा ये तो विश्वास कर सकता है अभी. अभी तक इसके अंदर का फेथ डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं हुआ है. अभी तक ये डाउटफुल और सस्टेबल नहीं हुआ है. अभी तक इसके अंदर वो डाउट का चश्मा नहीं आया है. तो ही बिलीव्स एंड ही इज वंडरिंग कैसा होगा वो पोएम, क्या होगा वो पोएम, कितने अच्छे पोएम होंगे. और वर्क कंटिन्यूड. नरेटर इज सेइंग कि हम लोग का ऐसे ही वॉक कंटिन्यू होता रहा. वी वॉक्ड अलोंग द सी वॉल एट द dock side one day. I said, Mr. Wordsworth, if I dry the pin in the water, will it float? He said, it's a strange world. Drop your pin and let's see what will happen. Now, this might appear as if it's a very childish and meaningless question to ask and a meaningless answer. But since I told you, there is a lot of poetry here, spirituality here, so we need to understand the spiritual sense to it. Now he's saying कि बच्चा पूछ रहा है एक बार डॉक में समुद्र के किनारे खड़े होके कि बताइए मिस्टर वर्ड्सवर्थ, अगर हम इस पिन को पानी में डालेंगे तो वो अंदर चला जाएगा कि डूबेगा. नाउ सिंपल आंसर वुड बी यस और नो. पिन डालने से डूब ही जाएगा. बट द पोएट इन हिम, आई मीन द पोएट इन द पोएट, द पोएट के अंदर जो पोएट है वो नहीं चाहता कि ये इसका लाइफ डेफिनेशन माने. ही इज सेइंग ये अजीबोगरीब दुनिया है, तुम एक बार खुद पिन डाल के देख. According to me, the interpretation is he's trying to teach him. समुंदर सामने ही है. Why don't you taste it? The sea is an ocean. Why should you jump into it and see? Why shouldn't you flow with the flow? Why shouldn't you be doing the experiment? Why should you take the other definitions of life and impose it on yourself? Why should the pin of your life not be tested? Why should it be rusted? The pin of life is to be tested, it is not to be rusted. And why should you accept the definition of somebody else? Why shouldn't you define it yourself? So here when he's saying a pin tum put it down, though, he was probably trying to teach him a lot many things than the pin. So the pin sank. Probably the meaning is poetry is bound to sink in the world of materialism, in the world of cutthroat competition, in the world of naysayers, in the world of victimhood. Brave people are bound to get lost. I say, how is the poem this month? बेटा कुछ इस मंथ का पोएम कैसा हुआ? He never told me the other line. He says it comes when it comes. मैंने ये बोल रहा है कि हाँ हो रहा है और आएगा आपने. मैंने see, you can only be poetic when you feel like. Poetry is not, it's not like कि कल सुबह में assignment चाहिए. Not a corporate world. It's a poet world. When it happens, it happens. It's like ओस की बूंदे कब होंगी, कितना होंगी, होंगे जब होंगे तो. तितलियां कितना पढ़ाएंगे, पढ़ाएंगे जब पढ़ना होगा. ओके. चांद की रोशनी कब पानियों पे झिलमिलाएगी, होगा जब होगा. सुबह की रोशनी जब आएगा, ओके. मिट्टी की खुशबू कैसे लगेगी, जब होगा तो होगा. These things are not quantifiable, they are not measurable. Okay. So he's saying poetry is like one such thing. It happens for its own sake. It doesn't happen for the sake of getting appreciation or money. So he says it comes, it comes. So this means that he was really a poet. I mean, good poet. May not be a published poet, may not be a Pulitzer Prize poet, may not be a poet who has got laurels, achievements, but a poet none, in spite of everything. But he never told me any other line. He merely said, oh, it comes when it comes. Or you would sit on the sea wall and watch the liner. So this is when they're in the lap of the nature. Both of them, are becoming one and the same and a part of the nature. One of the greatest poem in the world I heard no more. I felt he was going older. So narrator said कि मैं लिखूंगा दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा पोएम, लेकिन वो लिख नहीं पा रहा था. धीरे धीरे बूढ़ा हो जा रहा था. How do you live, Mr. Wordsworth? तो आप जीते कैसे? आप खाते कौन है, कमाते क्या है? He's saying, how do I get my money? When I noted yes, he laughed in a group. ऐसे हंस दिया उसने. He said, I sing calypso in the calypso. उसने बोला जब ये भजन वजन होता है वहाँ मतलब क्रिश्चियन मतलब ट्राइबल सॉन्ग, हम वो ट्राइबल सॉन्ग गाते, लोग पैसा देते, बस उससे ही थोड़ा बहुत चल जाता है. इसे वो तो एक सीजन में होता है, कुछ दिन के लिए, उससे आप पूरा साल चल जाता है. This man saying yes. Actually, it's not possible. Actually, he is saying yes, but calypso सॉन्ग गाना में कितने पैसा मिलता होगा थोड़ी ना ये कोई दुबई में शो कर रहा है. He will get enough to run lives. But you will be the richest man in the world when you write the. So narrator is still the child from the materialistic family. He's saying अगर आप सबसे अच्छा पोएम लिखिएगा तो पैसा भी बहुत मिलेगा. मतलब घुमा फिरा के हम जैसे लोगों को, हम सब जैसे, those who are watching the video, the first question is मिलेगा क्या? We never, when the poets ask the question क्या कुछ हम दे पाएंगे, हम लोग पूछते क्या हमारे लिए कुछ है. This is where we differ from the poets. He did not reply because he has no reply. There is no guarantee that the best poem will make you the richest. Probably there is not even probability to it. Very few poets actually are rich. Almost none, you can say. So and that to making me the richest man is probably an utopian idea. So ये कैसे ही जवाब दे कि हाँ सबसे अच्छा पोएम लिखे हम सबसे अमीर आदमी बनेंगे. One day I went to his house. So narrator had become his friend. So one from the Mughal street, he went to the Albuto street, जहाँ वो poet रहता था. I found him lying on the bed. He looked so old and so weak that I found myself crying, wanting to cry. So narrator was on his bed. He was ill. There was no food. There was no medicine. So he was as if he would die. He said the poem is not going. He says कि poem अच्छा जा नहीं रहा. कैसे जाए? Life ही अच्छा नहीं जा रहा तो poem कहाँ से अच्छा जाएगा? He wasn't looking at me. He was looking to the window at the coconut. Narrator इसको देख के बात, नैरेटर को पोएट देख के बात नहीं कर रहा है. क्यों? आज उसको आंख मिलाने में शायद शर्म आ रहा है. Because today on his deathbed he is accepting failure and he is teaching the poet, he is teaching the boy not to be a poet. He was speaking as if he wasn't there. I wasn't there. He said, when I was 20, I felt a power within myself. He said, जब हम कम उम्र के थे ना तो मेरे अंदर बहुत जज्बा था. Then almost in front of my eyes, I could see his face glowing older. मतलब धीरे धीरे ऐसा लग रहा था वो डिम होते जा रहा है. He said, but that was a long time ago. He says, पहले मेरे अंदर बहुत जज्बा था, zeal था, enthusiasm था, passion था, कुछ कर गुजरने का, दुनिया बदल देने का, पोएट्री लिखने का था. अब नहीं है. Then I felt it so keenly as though I had been slapped by my. मैं तो saying उसका ये दुख देख के हमको ऐसा लग रहा है कि मम्मी एक तमाचा हमको मारती है. I could see it clearly on my face. It was there for everyone to see. He was dying. Death was on his face. And उसके छोटे वो चेहरे पे मौत दिख रहा था. He looked at me and saw my tears and sat up. Later, he looked at me and saw my tears and said, "Come." And I went and sat on his knees. He looked into my eyes and said, "Now you see it? I always knew you had the poet eyes." Narrator is saying, देखो तुम्हारे आंखों में poetry. He did not even look sad and made me burst out crying loudly. So narrator started crying because he could feel that he's going to die. He pulled me to his thin chest and said, "Do you want me to tell a funny story?" He smiled encouragingly. Narrator is saying, तुम चाहते हो कि मैं funny story बोलने लगा. I could not reply. The boy did not say, but he kept on saying the story. He said, when I finish the story, I want you to promise that you will go away and never come back to see me. Do you promise? So, इतना दिन दोस्ती करने के बाद, उसको पोइट्री का नशा दिलाने के बाद, उसको लाइफ के सपने दिखाने के बाद, उसको सेंसिबल बनाने के बाद, नैरेटर उसको बोल रहा है कि तुम मेरे पास कभी मत आना, इस रास्ते में कभी मत आना, हमसे कभी मत मिलना. Narrator nodded. उसने पहले भी उसके बातों में हाँ भरा था, अभी भी भरा. He said, "Well, listen. The story I told you about the boy poet and the girl poet. Do you remember that? That was not true." He's saying वो सुनो ऐसे बना के बोले. All that talk about poetry and the greatest poet, that wasn't true either. Isn't it funny thing? He's saying अजीब बात है ना. हम तुमको सब ऐसे बना के बोल रहे थे दुनिया में सबसे बड़ा पोएट्री, ये गर्ल पोएट, ये बॉय पोएट. उसे बोलते बोलते वो रोने लगा. कोर्स सच में पोएट था. ऑफ कोर्स सच में वो ग्रेटेस्ट पोएट लिखना चाहता था. But he is not dying. He is accepting defeat. So his voice broke. The narrator could not see him crying because he really loved him. So he left the house. I ran home crying like a poet for everything I saw. I walked along Alberto Street a year later. Narrator did not go there. लेकिन एक साल बाद वो वहां से गुजर रहा था एल्बिटो स्ट्रीट से. But I could not find the house. वहां मल्टी स्टोरेड बिल्डिंग जैसा बन चुका है. It had vanished. It had pulled down and a two-storied building had taken built there. The mango tree and the plum tree and the coconut tree all had been cut down, and there was a brick and concrete, and it was as though B. Wordsworth never existed. So it is as if poetry never existed in the world of pragmatism, in the world of money, in the world of materialism. So death of B. Wordsworth is a death of poetry. And death of poetry is a death of civilization. And death of civilization is the destruction of mankind. So this story is a wake-up call that the moment the sensibility of a human being dies, no matter how successful they will become like Indus Valley civilization. They will become like Harappa civilization. They will be lost. So thank you for watching the video. And if you have liked this video, please subscribe the channel. And if you have any question, please comment. Thank you for watching the video.